Hello, this is Daniel Vale, prof- professionally known as Johnny Mac. And as I was looking, and I just saw a courtesy of Sean's View Entertainment here on YouTube that it looks like a top TNA star that just passed away. It looked like there's rumors slash news about a new world title or a WWE world title update, and I didn't see that. But in case y'all watch this, I thought I would let people that watch my channel videos know about this so they can watch it. It's S hold on, capital S lowercase EANZ capital V lowercase IEW capital E lowercase NT. And that's the channel you go to find this video. It is if you didn't already catch it. Alright, so really sorry to hear about that. I know some people, when they die, they go to a better place, but it's still sad to hear somebody dies because that means that somebody means they've left somebody here on Earth. It's sad to hear that somebody else is hurting for some reason. And I'm sorry how that might sound. I don't really understand why that may sound wrong or bad or insensitive. But that's the best way to explain why sometimes sometimes it's good that a person dies because they're no longer here in pain. But the real sad part is that they leave somebody here to burden the pain of them not being here. So I really mean that's what's sad about it for the person they lost. And I share the people's sympathy that lost this person. I lost my best friend's father. I lost my grandparents. Then, almost 3 years ago, I lost my uncle. So, yeah, my best friend's father. A lot of people may be wondering about this. Why I mentioned him is because he was like my second father. So, yeah, it's something I'm still struggling getting over. Wish, I still to a degree wish he was still around just so I could talk to him. Sometimes that's why I wish he was still around, is just so I can talk to him about what I'm doing. And I don't, and even though I've moved on and I would really love to tell my best friend's stepfather what I'm doing. Um, but I don't know how he'll receive it, so it's kind of sometimes it's easier to imagine how you think somebody else would respond. Anyway, so let me get back to my point before I forget. Said I was going to talk about Monday Nitro again. Um, or actually, yeah, I think what I spoke about was Mid South. The thing with me is the last time I did anything podcasting long term, I was talking about Raw versus Nitro, and I believe I left off in either '97 or '98. Matter of fact, there's a lot of times I talk about pay-per-views from a certain time because of the month we're in. So what I want to do is I'm gonna do something I that I don't usually do. I want to talk about WWE from this time era, either 97 or 98. I believe 97 is the time that I did not talk about like I needed to. Then again, I could also go into talk about 96 because I don't think I spoke about that year. But to be honest, right now, I want to talk about the time that Chris Jericho turned heel the first time. And what I remember from his story was how up to that point, because he was a clean cut baby face and he could not that's what I'm looking for. As a clean cut baby face was brand new to probably the United States. So to that point, he was in Canada, he was in Japan, and he was in Mexico. But he was never in the United States that I know of. So when he was, it's been so many years in the other countries that I think I think he knew what he could do if he was given the right chance. But unfortunately, when he was given that chance with WCW via Eric Bischoff, offering him a, a, a job there, when he started out, I don't think a lot of people really remember him winning the Cruiserweight title the first time. I don't think a lot of people remember him being the Lionheart, which was the United States version of what he was wrestling at in Mexico. So, all at one day, Terry Taylor, who now is excuse me, I have allergy problems. One day when he was just like, I need to change my character. But nobody was listening to him. So one day, talking about Chris Jericho, that is, Terry Taylor, former Mid South wrestler and former member of the WWE roster, I make that face because his gimmick was not the best character. It was not the best gimmick you could have. As a matter of fact, it's the most insulting and it's really the most embarrassing gimmick. Even I'd say I'd say that um, I would really say that for the sake of keeping my channel alive, I'll just stop right there and I won't compare it to any other character. Okay, so what I will say is by this time they they moved Ric Flair off the booking committee and made it and Ric Flair to my understanding, by the way, Ric Flair didn't even want to be a booker. He did that to try to help the company. But he finally was off the booking committee to being back to being a regular wrestler and wrestler only. So they put Terry Taylor in his place, and Terry Taylor was at this point in time just a student of Kevin Sullivan. Well, so Chris Jericho walked up to him and he said, "Hey Terry, what's up?" And that's what Terry told him. They were turning him into a heel, which was what he had been asking for forever. and or not really asking for it, but hoping in his heart that he would turn heel. Don't know when I don't know the day, but I know when turn him into a heel. What I wanted to do is I wanted to talk about um, his progress as a heel. Um, and I wanted to look up his career highlights on Wikipedia. His first Cruiserweight Championship win was June 28th, 1997. I remember this vividly because I was like, when did he win the Cruiserweight title? And it turned out about 2 nights before. Turned out about. Turns out that This event he won the Cruiserweight title at was actually us. Was if YouTube had been around in those days, it would have been on YouTube. That's how revolutionary this event was. Called NWO Nitro. That was, by the way, it's about a year before they did their own NWO Nitro, where they hijacked the show because they kept on saying, "We all know Bischoff's going to win. Bischoff's going to win." So right before Starcade, when Bischoff put up, they put the stipulations where if Bischoff wins, um, Scott Hall faces there's Scott WCW Monday Nitro turns into NWO Nitro. But if Zabisco wins, he faces Scott Hall at Sold Out. So about a year before that happened, I believe, um, they had um, the first ever NWO Monday Nitro, I believe, event, and it was actually Saturday Nitro. That's what it was. Sorry, mentioned the NWO Sold Out because I thought it was the same thing. Sorry about that. Or NWO Nitro because I thought it was similar to that. So it was a live event in Los Angeles, California. He beat Six for the title. 2 nights later, he comes out holding the title because he's so excited about holding it. Whoever his opponent was that night, he beat. Come back from the commercial break. Mean Gene was in there, so he put the title on Mean Gene's shoulder so that he can make a point of saying it's back in WCW. Let me read through this. Okay, I don't know why. I remember vividly when he went against Rey Mysterio Jr. and he started going after Rey Mysterio Jr.'s knee after he lost the match. He was already an established heel. So I don't know who wrote this, but I know that they're mistaken by that. So we go to Peacock. First, have to see what this is that sold out. That's what it was. So yeah, definitely, it's definitely not even a year. Excuse me. It was a matter of 6 months. 7 months actually, because sold out was a February pay per view, I believe. I believe it was at the. It was probably toward the end of Monday Nitro '97. No, it was okay. '95 was the first year of the '96. Go to '98. I believe it's close to season. I believe it's closer to the. Um, hmm. Hmm. Okay, I thought they usually set all the matches, so that's why I like to look at the DVDs that I have, especially of the extras, because I would have a better idea. All I remember is he lost to someone, and I believe Jericho did. And no matter how many times, and every time he faced someone, he would always lose. And not only would he always lose, but he would. I think either he was upset at losing or something, or somebody would cheat to win. So one day, and I remember when this happened live. He pushed David Penzer, the ring announcer, out of the chair. He took it and he started beating it with his started beating the side ring post with the chair over and over again, saying, "I'm sick of this." And I remember as a kid was making this face, "What's going on here?" And for 4 weeks, I remember for 4 straight Saturday nights, he I remember after that he beat up David Penzer's coat with his coat. So for 4 weeks straight, he took new coat out, gave it to him. Then after he lost, he uh he messed up the coat. Finally, when they realized that was enough to to get over that idea, they moved on to something else. And time went on. As time went on, they went back into the cruiserweight division, and he eventually regained cruiserweight title by, I think I said earlier, by beating Rey Mysterio Jr. And um, so he had went into this feud with Dean Malenko where he did things like he said, "I'm the man of 1,004 holds." And one night, I remember watching this on the DVD DVD portion of the Chris Jericho story that WWE produced for him, where he wrote down a bunch of lists of moves, and he had said in real life that these lists, when they went to commercial break, he stopped reading off the list and he criticized every sport team that they that represented the city they were in. So when he came back in response to saying this team blanks, and okay, let me say the word. This team sucks. This team, every team he said sucked because they were in Chicago. So he said the Bulls sucked, the Bears sucked, and the Blackhawks sucked. The only team that I know he would really be aware of how good they were, and that would be the Blackhawks because he always played hockey and he still loves to watch it today. So I don't know how he felt about the other two teams, but I hope for his sake he was just saying that because he was trying to get a response. Because he knew they hate when their team's criticized. So when he came back, they came back. All of a sudden, we hear Jericho sucks, and then he was interrupted by Prince Iakea because Prince Iakea said that he was trained by, I believe, Malenko's father. So he said, "I'm not going to let you continue to tear down his name or his father's name like you've been doing." And he said, "Hand me my notes." That was hilarious. And the reason he was doing this, I believe, and I forgot to mention this, I forgot the full details. But I believe that for 2 or 3 months, when Jericho was doing the storyline with Dean Malenko, 3 different times Malenko could not find a way to beat him for the title. So I remember one pay-per-view where they went against each other. Me and Gene Oakland said, "This makes you a valid loser." 3 times in a row. And he said, "Where do you go from here?" And he said, Malenko's answer was home. And so for about 3 months after this, I guess, he is home. I mean, I even give a give how long he stayed home, but while he was staying home, that's when he started just an angle where we talk against Dean Malenko by putting up Dean Malenko's picture on the screen and to be entertaining, um, but also to get under the opponent's skin, not his opponent's skin, but to get crowd upset. He said that Dean Malenko's picture just being there, where he's not saying anything. He said, "You're showing more personality than usual." Well, of course it's going to get us upset because we know he has more personality than that. He's not. He do even when he talks, he has more personality than that picture. So that's why when I laugh at that, it's because it shows how good they are. Because we know because it doesn't take talent to be mean, because if you're mean, that's just you being yourself. But when you're not mean, but you're just sarcastic, that's funnier. And that does take talent. Just take talent to be funny without being dirty. That does take talent. And so remember let me see, I was talking about going against you did the 1004 man of 1004 holds, even though most of these maneuvers are not real maneuvers, and even though a few maneuvers he actually repeated. And it turned out that the line, the man of 1004 holds, well, actually, the idea came from a pro wrestling manager named Floyd Creatchman. Claimed that Leo Berg, the first professional wrestler to be known as the man of 1,000 holds, was now known as the man of 1,002 holds. So he decided to add 2 more to be original. And the reason that 1,000 holds was now known as men of 1,002 holds was because with Floyd said he had learned 2 more holds. That Leo learned 2 more holds. They didn't even mention this, but in the middle of this feud, the 1,004 holds and everything in between it. They actually had Lenny Lane. If anybody remembers Lodi, they'll remember Lenny Lane because they were a tag team toward the end of WCW. Lenny Lane, great wrestler. He won the Cruiserweight title in between 1999 and 2000. And he almost, he's the one who almost lost the title, Cruiserweight title to, oh, I'm sorry. So this is saying too much. I'm sorry. Let me get back to my point. So, after he did take that leave of absence, then Slamboree was, I remember now, it was about a month after this whole thing happened with the Malenko going home. He was gonna, Chris Jericho was gonna retire the Cruiserweight title because he thought nobody could beat him. So J.J. Dillon said, let's put that to the test. I'm gonna take every Cruiserweight wrestler and put them in the ring in a one night battle royal. And he said, then he informed Jericho that he was gonna have to face the winner directly after the match was over. So he said, okay. Because he thought they'd be too tired. So, what I remember being surprised at was why Junto Guerrera eliminated himself. All of a sudden, Jericho walks to the ring after the Battle Royal was over. Cyclope won. Jericho gets in the ring. All of a sudden, Dean Malenko takes the mask off. It turns out it was Dean Malenko the whole time. So he ends up winning the Cruiserweight title. So that's when he started the conspiracy. That's when he started the conspiracy victim angle. The Slamboree. So May 18th, 1998. Okay. Now I remember. The reason this Slamboree was so important was because at the end of Slamboree, this was what ended up leading to um, Sting joining the NWO Wolfpack because I don't think Scott Hall thought he would work well in the Wolfpack, so he stayed with the Black and White. So he took the WCW tag team titles and he had Kevin Nash over the back with it so that the Giant, that most people know as the Big Show or Paul White now. Most people know him as Big Show now from the WWE. Or if you love AEW, then you know them, then you know him as Paul White. No more BS. And that's no more Big Show. So that led to Sting and Giant being tag team champions, but Sting didn't want to be part of the NWO, so that eventually led to him being a member of the NWO Wolfpack. Hmm. And also, if I'm not mistaken, I think this is the same. This is the same time that Eric Bischoff challenged Vince McMahon to face him at Slamboree. So because Vince McMahon did not show up, he claimed this was like his second time winning a match when he didn't even win the first match. That was that in itself. That also shows how good he was as a heel. So that's how the show started. I'm just looking to see when Jericho started his segment. Started this angle, and it usually is just started by a simple angle, by a simple segment when he's talking. Okay, so his first first shot at doing this conspiracy theory was this conspiracy victim um angle was him actually already doing what he had already gotten over himself, being a crybaby. So so he starts throwing a tantrum again like a kid. That's for solidifying that he in fact is a crybaby. And the reason I'm doing this is because I was thinking about those extra scenes from uh from the Chris Jericho DVD, and I just thought, why don't I just talk about that as an episode? Then I want to talk about, excuse me. Then when I talk about an actual topic, I can start talking about. I can look through some of the videos. Like, I remember doing a full year of Nitro, which was like from September to December 95. Then I did from January 96 to um, December 97. because it was so much fun talking about it as well as watching it. So now the question is, from myself, is what can I talk about? Question is, and those were all Nitro episodes. So, what episodes did I not talk about Raw that I could talk about on this podcast from Raw? And I have to go all the way back to 95 because that's the last thing I remember looking at. And last thing I really remember talking about from a podcast from the year 95 was um, the time that Owen Hart and Yokozuna were going to defend their title and against Shawn Michaels and Diesel, who were the Intercontinental and Heavyweight Champions individually, with a winner take all match. And I don't remember talking about any other show from that month. I mean from that year. So that's what I would look back at. But before I do that, I will talk about Royal Rumble. Um, talk about Royal Rumble from this time, and actually, as I think about it, I think I should do like I did for last month, talk about Royal Rumble, and then come back. Let me state that I spoke about the first ever Royal Rumble because of the importance of the season, but I think I should talk about the first ever elimination chamber match. No, elimination chamber pay per view, but I should also talk about the elimination chamber match. So that's what I'll do. As a matter of fact, what I'll do is I'll talk about the first episode of the first edition of elimination chamber, but I'll start off talking about the first ever elimination chamber match. So, so we'll just continue talking about this. So when he started about the conspiracy and being a conspiracy victim, I remember seeing this on the DVD. On the DVD, reminding myself of all the in between scenes he did. Like he got on the microphone and he said, I have been a victim of a diabolical conspiracy that's equal to the Chicago White Sox from this year and the assassination of JFK himself and whatever else he said. That was funny in itself because it's like, there's no conspiracy. There's no conspiracy at all. You shouldn't have been doing that. You, sh- you kept on you kept on getting away with things. This was a chance for for you to get a taste of your own medicine. Why are you calling this a conspiracy? Anyway, this was and this was one thing he could not use a rule book about because he would use supposed rule books that that would give him a loophole, and that helped create another nickname for him, King of the Loopholes. So what happened was this was him because the Battle Royal was whoever won the Battle Royal. That was a loophole he could not find a loophole against. So that's why he's decided to do this crybaby routine, this conspiracy victim angle. And one day they wanted him to go to Washington, D.C., and they brought a camera crew with him. And he said, here's your this jurisprudence, as he called it, for, for you to get me my belt back. And he thought he could go into the courthouse, I think. He can't get past the front door. So he started running down the stairs, and he said, or the steps, and he said, this conspiracy is bigger than I thought. Then he was talking to another, and he was talking to, I'm not sure who else it was. Oh, yeah. He was talking to some security, and he said, we're going to have to go to get over J.J. Dillon's head, and they wouldn't let him talk. So they wouldn't let him go through. So I don't think they were even aware of what he was there for. So that's why they said, you're going to have to leave. So then he said, you're in the conspiracy also, aren't you? So they found him in some type of library, and he said, where are the books on WCW title belt? So he claimed he found one 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 book that spoke about the ruling on WCW title belts. So the next week, I think, he sent a letter to Ted Turner, and he claimed he got it back. And this was the funniest thing. And I know I keep on saying he's funny, but this was really funny because up to this point he was just minimally funny because he has so much charisma. This is hilarious. Seeing him act like an overgrown 5-year-old is funny. But he actually used a high pitched voice, and that's what made it even funnier this time. So it went from ridiculous to. It went from being ridiculous to. Are you kidding me? Because he got a letter from Ted Turner saying, yes, you should get another shot. But because you spend so much time complaining, you won't get your shot. So and at the end he said, signed Uncle Ted Turner. Uncle Ted Turner. And that was hilarious because he said Uncle in it. And I would really have to look back at what they were saying about this. So what ended this story was Dean Malenko had decided that it was in the best interest of everybody to give the title back to J.J. Dillon. And I remember what was really good was when he thought he didn't need to beat Dean Malenko to get the title back. So he thought he should be handed the title back, and J.J. Dillon said, you won't get the title back until you beat Dean Malenko at the pay-per-view. So, um, in the middle of this, his father came out and he said his dad was Ted Irvine, the great professional hockey player for the NHL, I believe, and he definitely played for New York Rangers. I remember on that old WWE show called Confidential, they showed what wrestlers go through they went through throughout the week, and one episode, Chris Jericho was on there, and that he said this it was cool that the hockey team was playing, that the New York Rangers were playing while he was on this radio show, and he was listening to it to talk about it, and he said, my father used to play for them. And it's my understanding his father played with his left hand, that he swung with his left hand. Because his father was a left winger for the New York Rangers, I believe he said. So this ended. This entire angle with Dean Malenko ended with Chris Jericho regaining the Cruiserweight title, and then in the middle, and Dean Malenko. Well, actually, Dean Malenko got himself disqualified. So technically, because he won the match, they didn't say you had to win by pinfall or submission. So even though you can't win a title by disqualification, because they wanted the title not to be vacant, they let him keep the title. So the other things that happened was he lost the title to Rey Mysterio, who came back out as a surprise the next night on Nitro. But the next week, he got out of it with a loophole, and Rey Mysterio said if facing Dean Malenko could get him another match at the title, he would do it. So Dean said he would do it. Chris Jericho used the title to hit Dean Malenko in the back of the head with it, so that he wouldn't have to face Dean Malenko in the future. But this led to Rey Mysterio Jr. or whoever it was had lost. Juventud Guerrera became the number one contender for the Cruiserweight title. And Juventud Guerrera, um, in the middle of that, he went against Chris Jericho at Road Wild with Dean Malenko as a special guest referee. So in this match, by the way, back at I know I didn't ever spoke about this before in on my podcast. So even though I'm going to talk about this December, I'm going to mention it now. Back in 1997, 98 actually, in the beginning of 98, they made a ruling that because Nick Patrick was thought to have refereed cheated for Hogan and the refereeing. And then they decided to suspend him, and they said, because what happened the next night on Nitro, they could not, they could not keep the world title the way the rematch ended because Nick Patrick, who was not considered a referee that night, made the count, so they couldn't keep the championship on Hogan, and the entire championship committee decided that they couldn't keep this title either on Sting, so they held it up, and they asked Piper, acting commissioner at the time, what would you do? So he said, I'll go against each other in a rematch at the next pay per view, Slamboree, and then, then Scott Hall goes against that winner next month. So actually, sold out was actually a March pay per view. So now we got that out the way. At Slamboree that year, Juventud Guerrero, when he was still wearing a mask, put his mask on the line against Jericho's title at the time. So, and he defeated Juventud Guerrero, won the mask. So, the significance of this is who he's this is who he definitively lost the title to as to end this whole saga between himself and Dean Malenko was Juventud Guerrero, and I remember that match vividly. I remember thinking to myself, he refereed that well because he could have, Dean Malenko that is, because he could have very well let his personal, and he could have let his personal um, or professional problems on screen, that is, with Jericho cloud his judgment, but he didn't. That's what I remember about that. And then he went into the World TV title, won that title, held that title for most of '98 by most of '98 and '99. I remember he had beat Stevie Ray after first he accidentally kicked referee Mark Curtis in between the legs, knocked him out. Then the Giant chokeslammed Stevie Ray, and the referee woke up, so he picked up one hand three times in a row. That's because he put on the Lion Tamer on Stevie Ray, and that's how he won. That's how he won the TV title. And then he decided, even though the U.S. title is second from the world title, if I was Jericho, I would have wanted to go against the U.S. champion, who by this time was probably DDP. So I would have gone against DDP. I don't know why he felt the need to go against Goldberg to prove how well he could draw in. The U.S. title was the second most important title to win. By the time this happened, Goldberg really, he should have already been beaten by this time, and all that people would disagree. And I understand that. But by this time, having an undefeated wrestler as a champion, world champion, even though it had never been done before, it was starting to actually take away from the title instead of giving it credibility. The title the title made Goldberg. Goldberg did not make the title. So that's why I believe they should have let him be beaten sooner. And I because because of that. But anyway, the U.S. title to me was more valuable at this time than the heavyweight title. And if you really want to show how well you can draw, you go from the bottom to the middle because not only is it fair in character, but also shows how well you can draw. Anybody can go after the top, but not just anybody can make the top title relevant. That's why I think he wanted too much too soon. So at this time, he's still considered new to the mid card, and he was still considered probably at the bottom. So that's why I don't understand why he tried to do that. But anyway, and it turned out they were gonna do an actual world title match against Jericho and go between Jericho and Goldberg, but Goldberg did not like the idea of Jericho beating him or anybody for that matter. And so that's when he started thinking about leaving the company. And I don't think it was time to leave the company. I think it was time for him to think of a different way of showing how well he could draw the audience. So he so he beat Gilbert, which was a midget version of Goldberg. And then he lost the world TV title to Conan in November. In early 1999, began a feud with Perry Saturn. And I remember this. Perry Saturn um, kept on losing his temper, and they kept on. Almost every match he had was refereed by the same person, Scott Hudson, I believe. No, I'm sorry, that's not Scott Hudson. Scott Dickinson, I believe. Scott Dickinson was told by Jericho on one afternoon, hours before Nitro started, after, because he was going to go against Perry Saturn. Jericho reminded him of how he's supposed to be the person who's in charge of the match. He's the enforcer of the match at that moment. So don't let Perry Saturn push him around. So that started this big angle where he influenced Scott Dickinson in how he officiated his matches, because most of his, that being Perry Saturn's matches, and because he was going against Saturn in almost every match he had, so that's why this was big. I'm gonna stop right here and do a second part of this. Thank you and goodbye.